Support for Louisiana, the state we're in, is provided by
Entergy Louisiana is strengthening our power grid throughout the state. We're reinforcing infrastructure to prepare for stronger storms, reduce outages, and respond quicker when you do need us, because together we power life.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
Who pays and how much will be on the minds of lawmakers as they tackle tax reform.
And the largest chimpanzee sanctuary in the U.S. wants to extend the lives of chimps using new tech.
Students in Vermilion Parish Public Schools connect with their Cajun Creole heritage and the first of its kind curriculum.
All right, all this coming up.
Let's do it.
Hi everyone, I'm Kara St. Cyr.
And I'm Karen LeBlanc. More on these stories in just a moment. But first, we headed into the week with Governor Jeff Landry calling for a crime-focused special session and presenting the first executive budget of his term. Now, budget work begins for lawmakers, and that question of who pays and how much is going to drive decisions about several proposed tax reforms up for discussion. Here's an overview of the impending tax reform debate.
It's official. Louisiana has the highest average combined state and local sales tax in the nation. That's according to the Tax Foundation. The state's sales tax registering at 9.56%. Paying your fair share of taxes is up for debate and a possible remake with the new administration.
We have one of the most complicated tax structures in the country. We're one of about 15 states with a corporate franchise tax. We're one of about 12 states with an inventory tax. We have the highest combined sales tax rate in the country, just above Tennessee now.
Governor Jeff Landry is targeting tax reform as a policy priority in the legislative session. He's calling for the elimination of Louisiana's personal income tax.
Are we going to shift all of that to low and middle income households through egregiously high sales tax rates and ask them to give up huge portions of their paycheck to fund the services that ensure that all of us have the ability to thrive in Louisiana, including the wealthiest among us?
Now, we are balanced by the fact that we have some of the lowest property taxes in the country.
The Pelican Institute, a policy organization, supports phasing out Louisiana's personal income tax. Two sides of the equation as lawmakers tackle tax reform in 2024.
Our models show we can phase out the income tax in the next 8 to 10 years with no cuts to government, only less growth.
Governor Jeff Landry's Economic Development and Fiscal Policy Council, part of his transition team, points to Louisiana's poor ranking by the Tax Foundation as proof that tax reform is needed.
You have a punishing tax code. We're one of only a handful of states that has a personal income tax, a corporate income tax, and a franchise tax. It's a cover charge. You're charged the franchise tax whether you make money or not. That's just for the pleasure of doing business in the state of Louisiana.
According to the Tax Foundation, Louisiana ranks 40th out of 50 states on the 2024 State Business Tax Climate Index.
When businesses are trying to figure out where they want to invest their capital and they see this is one of the worst places to do it, not necessarily because the burden is so high, but it's so complicated to navigate all the various tax structures. The goal is to simplify that.
Landry's proposed business tax reforms also include eliminating a requirement that companies create new jobs to receive property tax exemptions through the Industrial Tax Exemption Program known as ITEP.
One of the added layers that the previous administration put on was a proof of jobs requirement. And that's something that traditionally has not been there. It's kind of a guessing game.
The ITEP program was never meant to be a jobs program. It was meant to attract investment to Louisiana.
A big challenge to tax reform, compensating for the loss of revenue in the state budget. One issue, in 2025, the temporary 0.45 cent state sales tax expires, coinciding with the re-implementation of a number of special sales tax breaks.
Louisiana was the first state to be sued, declaring our sales tax administration system unconstitutional according to the U.S. Supreme Court. We need to fix that.
The general consensus is that Louisiana's tax code is complicated and in some cases counterproductive for businesses and households. How to fix it falls to lawmakers in the year ahead.
What would you like to see come out of this new administration in terms of tax reform in Louisiana?
Yeah, focusing on equity and adequacy. We cannot get rid of half of our state general fund and act like we can run our government on it. It's not going to work.
States that are in the process of or phasing out the personal income tax, you see more in-migration than out-migration, and it's competitive now. When Mississippi, our neighbor, is looking to eliminate the personal income tax, we're competing with that talent and where it may locate or ultimately go.
It deserves all points of view being made. It deserves a grand debate in our legislature and across the state, and I think that's what we're going to get.
The governor's special legislative session dealing with crime issues starts February 19th. And from hashtags to headlines, news coming out of the state capitol was trending this week, crime being a major point of discussion. In fact, on Friday, Governor Jeff Landry issued a state of emergency declaring a police shortage. The Louisiana Sheriff's Association estimates that they're down about 1,800 deputies statewide. They say that's a record low.
Obviously, if they're down this many deputies, that means that response times are going to be a lot longer, which means that it could take longer time for somebody to get to you if you're in the middle of an emergency, which is potentially very dangerous.
And I think the governor is sending a strong message as we go into his special session dealing with crime, underscoring how important this issue is. Now, you will be following the crime session, reporting here for SWI.
Yes. So the governor beforehand, whenever he was just running during his campaign, he mentioned how important crime was going to be to him. And we knew that this crime session was coming for a long time. And we know that reducing crime, especially in the New Orleans area, is definitely going to be a priority.
And in other news coming out of the state capitol, it was controversial, and now the deal is off. The state's largest health insurer, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana, pulled its plans to sell to Elevance Health, one of the nation's largest for-profit healthcare providers. And this is big news because it's been so controversial. There's been a lot of concern in the public about the quality of care and the cost of care should the sale of that go through. Blue Cross Blue Shield announced its plans on the eve before what was to be 2 days of public hearings on the matter.
Right, and if this deal had gone through, this would have affected nearly half of the state's 4.6 million people that live here. And of course, like you said, it was very controversial, and the deal had been on the table. There was a lot of back and forth for a little over a year now. And I believe the governor, he issued a public response, and he said from the very beginning, we recognize that any transaction such as this would be disruptive to the healthcare landscape of the state. So there you have it. It's definitely a controversial one.
So we had Mardi Gras on the minds of many, and also the Super Bowl this week. And as we wrap Super Bowl 58, now excitement builds for hosting the Super Bowl on our home turf. That's right. The Super Bowl heads to the New Orleans Superdome next year, and Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser was there at an official handing over ceremony. So excitement for this.
Yes, and hopefully we'll be able to see the Saints play. I will say this every single time we talk about it. I am excited. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see if we're going to be there. So
Valentine's Day also on the minds of many, and Google tracks a lot of interesting factoids, including the most Googled date activities. And in Louisiana, it happened to be cooking classes. Interesting. Texas, it was coffee, and in Mississippi, it was bowling.
Okay, well, I turned my nose up at the cooking classes, but bowling is definitely worse. Please do better, Mississippi.
All right, well, on to some good news.
Cardiovascular disease is incredibly common in our genetic cousin, the chimpanzee. Though it's unclear why primates fall victim to sudden cardiac arrest, science has pinpointed a way to detect these abnormalities before they become fatal, using the echocardiogram. I traveled to Chimp Haven in Keithville, which is a primate sanctuary, to learn more about the echocardiogram and the precious lives it promises to protect. Take a look.
Every 33 seconds, a person dies from cardiovascular disease. It's the leading cause of death for Americans and is responsible for a fifth of all deaths annually. We think of this disease as a distinctly human malady, but it's actually exceedingly common in our evolutionary cousin, the chimpanzee. Scientists are looking to human technology to extend the lives of chimps, but the practice is relatively new. In Keithville, Louisiana, the world's largest chimpanzee sanctuary is breaking barriers to bring life-saving tech to our primate relatives.
So a lot of these guys are actually related, which in terms can also kind of complicate their relationships because obviously you want to have your families back.
Chimp Haven is a sanctuary for more than 300 geriatric chimpanzees who've retired from biomedical research facilities, where they were test subjects for things like HIV, hepatitis, and vaccines. Most are somewhat healthy and between ages 20 and 60. They live out the rest of their days here in relative bliss, surrounded by 200 acres of land, where they're free to roam and they have regular snack times filled with popcorn.
So that's Natalie clapping at us for more popcorn. She's like, let's go, come on, it's cold out here.
Though these chimps have a longer lifespan here than they would in the wild, each are still very likely to develop some sort of cardiovascular disease. It affects almost a third of all captive chimps, and it's estimated that 20 to 30% of the chimps here have some sort of heart abnormality.
Chimpanzees are prone to what's known as cardiac fibrosis, and because of that we see changes to the heart that impact their overall length of life.
Can you explain that to me?
Sure. So it's one of the leading causes. So we talked about cardiac fibrosis. And so what happens is that the body tries to heal itself and it will create what's known as fibrotic tissue. And so that musculature of the heart thickens. And as it thickens, it doesn't, the heart, right, we know that it pumps and it provides blood to the rest of the body. Well, as it thickens, it doesn't allow that blood flow to do exactly what it needs to do.
Humans typically develop cardiovascular diseases because of poor diet. But for chimps, it's stress. Males, specifically alpha males, are disproportionately affected.
So when you think about what the alpha male does in his social grouping, he keeps everything in order. He's watching the perimeters and making sure that their environments are always safe, and that just comes with some added stressors in just what they do, the political aspect of their jobs.
Chimp Haven started using cardio-mobile devices to survey chimp heart health back in 2019. Staff uses positive reinforcement training to get the chimps to place their hands on the EKG pads a few times a year before their annual physical.
Those were originally created for humans monitoring their heart health. So it's just a very small square device with 2 metal pads, and you have to maintain contact with it. In humans it's 2 fingers, but in the chimps we can get them with 1 for 30 seconds, and that can provide a diagnostic EKG reading.
These physicals provide good diagnostics, but it isn't a perfect system. The staff at Chimp Haven needed something more in-depth, something like the echocardiogram. The echocardiogram is an ultrasound machine that humans use to monitor all 4 chambers of the heart. It can display heart muscles and valves in great detail, and it works the exact same way on chimps. Chimp Haven partnered with the Great Ape Heart Project to teach their staff how to use the machine. So far, 7 chimps have been monitored.
So it gives me that added information that I'm usually going to pick up on that ECG. It just gives me that added information to determine the quality of heart health.
The echocardiogram is already showing promise at Chimp Haven. The training for the machine is going well, but to the staff here, it was long overdue.
I think they've given so much to us that we really want to give back to them, and any way we can help them participate in their care and their well-being, we want to do that.
Tank Ball of the Grammy-nominated band Tank and the Bangas says her first love isn't music, it's actually poetry. Her love of words on a page budded into a musical career that fully encapsulates the distinct experience of Blackness in New Orleans. In honor of Black History Month, I sat down with Tank herself to discuss the inspiration behind her craft and the future of her music. So you are definitely a culture bearer for the city of New Orleans, and honestly for the South as a whole. Yeah, you are. You have to take your credit. But I really want to start with some background information on you for our viewers. So tell me a little bit about where you're from and what inspired you to make music.
I am from New Orleans, the 8th Ward and New Orleans East. I feel like I grew up in both of these areas, and I'm so happy I grew up in both of these areas because I have one side that's like super horrible streets, but a lot of culture, fighting, fun, neighborhood block parties type vibe. And then I go to the East where it's a little bit more suburban, and I was able to, be introduced to Selena.
Introduced to Selena?
Yeah, I had friends that like introduced me to Selena, so that was cool.
Wait, Selena Quintanilla?
The singer, yeah.
Dreaming
I don't think I would have knew about it in the 8th Ward around my particular friends. Yeah.
But the 8th Ward in particular, they've had a lot of musicians come out of the 8th Ward.
Yes.
Do you think that's where a little bit of your inspiration came from to be an artist?
Just more of a person than an artist, I think.
Okay.
I think living in the 8th Ward, living in the city, period, just makes you a little bit more observant to what's around you.
Explain that.
I mean, the streets, the people, the language, the buildings. When you're in the suburbs, you're a little more isolated, you're just looking at all that's around you, and it's just really mostly just pretty.
Is there a person, a family member, I guess, that influenced you whenever you were trying to develop your art?
I think it was my big sister.
Really?
I used to read her diary a lot. I had no business. I'm saying.
You read her diary?
I'm a child. But her diary was mostly poetry.
Okay.
So I was able to just read her poetry, and it just was inspiring. I learned all her stuff by heart, and she was a good footnote.
Where do you think that Black culture is most influential in Louisiana culture? Because when people think of Louisiana culture, they're usually thinking about the music. They're thinking about things like Mardi Gras, the Mardi Gras Indians. And I want to know, in your particular opinion, where do you think that our community's culture and impact is the strongest?
I mean, besides the music, obviously, and the style, and just the way we just are naturally, I think we're the heart of the South, and they need us, like, really. Like, Black culture is just like your grandma's house, period. That soft spot, the root to the gumbo. You're gonna need that. You're gonna need that for this place to survive and to be hospitable and to keep it moving forward, but while also sticking to its roots. I feel that way, especially about not just Black people, but Southern people especially. The way we just speak to people that we don't even much know. A kind of hello. You need that here. You need us here. I just think.
I've noticed about New Orleans and Black culture specifically is this aspect of joy, and it's infused in pretty much everything that the culture does here. Even whenever people mourn, there's still a sense of excitement and happiness.
Celebration. It definitely come around that food.
Really?
You could be crying down at my funeral, Mama, Dad, you know what I'm saying? But after the repast, and the moment that they put that dressing, macaroni and cheese in your face, you're about to sit down, you're about to talk to your cousins, and we're about to celebrate her life. And it's about that food and getting together and talking, and in New Orleans particularly, the way that we about to, have that second line. Every funeral doesn't have it. They think they make it seem like every funeral does it. Every funeral doesn't.
Right.
Doesn't do it. But when they do, it is beautiful. You know that they're about to really celebrate that person's life.
So I listened to Green Balloon and Red Balloon, and I loved them. They're energetic. They're very, 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 very fun. The beginning of that one, it sounds fun. It makes me think of Happy Feelings and by Frankie Beverly. And I could definitely hear it in the beginning, because that's the first thing I thought of was old school music.
Yes. Okay.
That, so you hear it, now you understand?
Yes, yeah. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay,
That's what I heard the first time I heard it. But I was thinking about, especially with Spaceships and that song on Green Balloon, it's happy, it's fun, and then you kind of switch over to your EP, and that's It seems like it gets a little bit more serious and it turns to concern, especially with the poem that you wrote that's called There Goes the Neighborhood. And I just wanted you to explain that shift in your tone.
With this poetry, you really have to be honest, and that was just something that I happened to see, you know, and I wanted to talk about it. I even loved the way that at the time, our only white member in the band, we even let him sit very uncomfortably in the neighborhood. He knew that he had to sit uncomfortably in the neighborhood, and we made the camera zoom in on him as we left him alone. You know, just talking about things that are really happening, things that are not always comfortable to sit with.
So moving on to a lighter note, I know that there's probably not a lot that you can tell us, but what's in the future for Tank and the Bangas?
I'm turning over a leaf, and I want to get back to my roots and something that I love. What I love about poetry so much is that it loved me back way before music did. So I just wanna dive into that a little bit more.
All right.
It's gonna be fun. Going for that Grammy again.
Yes, and I'm excited to see what y'all are gonna do.
Louisiana is cultivating future culture bearers with a new Louisiana French heritage curriculum. It's part of the lesson plan in several Vermilion Parish schools. The program is known as Lâche Pas, meaning don't let go, as it's affectionately called. It connects students with Louisiana artists, folklorists, and musicians to learn about Cajun Creole and culture, history, and language. I traveled to Abbeville, where students put on a show of their hands-on learning with news of the program's efforts to expand statewide.
Sixth grader Andrew Noel is weaving a blanket using the techniques of his Acadian ancestors. It's a skill he's learning as part of the Louisiana Heritage Connections curriculum in Vermilion Parish schools.
I just thought that was awesome, how my ancestors did the same thing that I'm standing here doing right here.
Andrew is demonstrating his newfound skills at a showcase of the Louisiana Heritage Connections curriculum. He's joined by students from several participating schools in Vermilion Parish, teaching the curriculum known as Lâche Pas.
I find artists who want to share their passion for the arts with young children, but not necessarily have an education background. So I help them work with the kids, and in this case, it's people who are culture bearers. They have these things and this knowledge that we don't want to lose, and that's why it's called Lâche Pas, right? Don't let go. We can't let go of these traditions.
Louisiana Heritage Connections is an after-school elective offering 7 different subjects: music, art, dance, history, the French language, traditions, and customs. It's funded by $1 million federal grant through the Louisiana Department of Education to teach children Louisiana French heritage.
Keeping the music has always been part. You know, we've kept the traditions of Cajun music, but now they're learning the art. If you go talk to the kids, they can tell you they love the art. They love the art. They love the music, but you know, kids just don't get that opportunity to use their hands. You know, they know how to text and they know how to get on Snapchat, but do they really know how to make pottery and paint?
It exists currently as an after-school program, but our school board wants it so badly that we're going to embed it in the school day so it can be an elective that students can take in the instructional day.
This year, Lâche Pas launched its own textbook, unveiled at the event.
In the past, students learned music from their ancestors or their old aunts and uncles on the front porch as an oral tradition. We took that oral tradition, we converted it to a musical notation system, and we put that in a book.
Lâche Pas invites local artists into the schools to share their crafts, techniques, and traditions with participating students.
So this piece right here is called The Three Musicians, and what we did is we talked about Pablo Picasso and his piece, The Three Musicians, and we transformed them into Cajun musicians. So we talked about what type of instruments Cajun musicians use and what they might look like compared to Pablo Picasso's piece.
Taught them this about the Native Americans, how they used to make the pottery from, digging the clay up and hand building it and to use for drinking or cooking or whatever. It's opening doors to kids that would maybe never take a pottery class or art class before. It's a wonderful program, and the kids really enjoy hands-on and expressing themselves through art.
Lâche Pas builds on lessons from the past. Years ago, Louisiana lost its Cajun French language. That's what gave birth to Keithville, to revive the language. The Lâche Pas curriculum, well, it completes the circle, teaching art, craft, music, folklore, all the other aspects of Cajun culture.
In 1968, after years of discouraging spoken Cajun French in public schools, the Louisiana legislature passed bills to preserve and perpetuate the French language and Cajun heritage. This gave birth to Keithville, the Council for the Development of French in Louisiana, a supporter of Lâche Pas, which has plans on providing instruction to approximately 150 students in 6 schools for the 2024-2025 school year, and expansion plans statewide.
It's long overdue, and this is going to live on for years to come, and hopefully we can duplicate it across Louisiana, because this is just, it's incredible. I'm just so proud of Louisiana, proud of these students, and proud of what's been done here tonight.
Makes me feel as though that I'm getting to know them by doing the same thing that they used to do.
That's our show for this week, but before we say goodbye, we have a programming note to share with you. Antiques Roadshow premieres Monday, February 19th at 7 p.m. on Louisiana Public Broadcasting and features the LSU Rural Life Museum in its first 3 episodes for season 28.
Also, it's that time of year again. We want to remind viewers that LPB is accepting nominations for high school students to be recognized as Louisiana Young Heroes. Visit lpb.org/heroes to learn more and to submit a nomination online.
As we wrap up our show, remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our LPB app.
You can catch LPB news and public affairs shows, as well as other Louisiana programs you've come to enjoy over the years. And please like us on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
For everyone at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Karen LeBlanc.
And I'm Kara St. Cyr. Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Support for Louisiana, the state we're in, is provided by
Entergy Louisiana is strengthening our power grid throughout the state. We're reinforcing infrastructure to prepare for stronger storms, reduce outages, and respond quicker when you do need us, because together we power life.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana.
And by Visit Baton Rouge and the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and viewers like you. Thank you.